Hey y'all, Jamie here, and thanks for checking out another episode of Milk, Honey, and Mayhem. A huge thank you to all of my subscribers, and a special shout out to my members. Thank you so much. Your support for the channel means everything. I hope to have some merch out for you guys soon, but don't forget that I already have wooden stickers for sale, and if you want one of those, check the description below. And if you have any suggestions about what you think I should talk about, then email me at milkhoneyandmayhem@gmail.com. All lowercase, all one word. And if you still haven't subscribed, why in the world not? It's free, just like hitting that thumbs up button down there, and both of those things help my channel a lot. Y'all know what to do. Now today, we recognize Thomas Martin as the man behind Martin College, now UT Southern. But long before that, James McCallum said of him, "No man enjoyed more fully the confidence of the community, and none ever more deserved it." Because Thomas Martin was the most successful businessman in the entire Southeast. This video covers the evolution from Thomas Martin, millionaire businessman, to the family man who was a champion for female education, to the current institution that now occupies those old buildings, UT Southern. Are y'all ready? Let's get into it. Now, Thomas Martin, the son of a farmer and a Methodist minister, was born in Charlottesville, Virginia, on December 14th, 1799, the very same night that George Washington took his last breath. He often joked around with his family, saying, "That night one great man left this earth, and another came into it." A deeply religious fella, he said it with some humbleness, but he wasn't wrong either. Even as a young man, he knew he was destined for greatness. At the young age of only 18 years old, he set off on his own for the Wild West, which Pulaski was in those days. Taken with the idea of merchantry, he opened a small shop with his business partner here on the west side of the square. With his charm and his knack for the profession, he quickly amassed a small fortune. He only made one mistake. He trusted his business partner, who took everything while he was up on a trip to visit his parents up in Charlottesville. And I'm telling you, he cleaned him out. The money, the merchandise on the shelves, and the trust from the community. Thomas Martin was completely unbothered by the loss of those first two things. But the loss of his good name, well, that just wouldn't do. He made a bold choice, opened the doors to his store, stepped outside, and loudly proclaimed for all to hear, "If God gives me life and strength, every dollar I owe shall be repaid." Now that attitude at such a young age made such an impression that Mr. Meredith, the owner of the busiest mercantile shop in town, offered him a partnership in his business and turned it into Meredith and Martin behind me. He made good on his word and repaid all the debts, and then he became a millionaire. Now, all work and no play made Thomas a very dull fella, so he found himself a lady that he fancied, and one fall day in 1824, he married Miss Mary Nancy Hennon Top in a lovely ceremony at the Methodist Church. Together, they had 4 children. Now, sadly, they outlived all but one. But that doesn't mean that those kids didn't leave their own mark in history. So let's take a quick second and look at some of Thomas Martin's descendants. The firstborn, Laura Emmeline, was welcomed into the world in 1826. Now, she ended up getting married and moving to South Carolina, where she passed away in 1864 at just 38 years old. Now, William Marsalis was born 2 years later. He idolized his older sister, and when he married and had a daughter, he named her Laura. He would follow his sister into the afterlife just 3 years after she herself passed. But that daughter of his married into the Rose family, which is still a well-known name around these parts. And for a while, she served as the historian general of the United Daughters of the Confederacy. And she wrote a book detailing inner workings of the KKK and made a good bit of money on it. And when she passed, her son Clifford inherited all that money. But he made a big chunk of change himself. A party man in his youth, he ended up becoming an eccentric, miserly recluse who ran an investment business that somehow included postcards and an African-American handyman. So it didn't surprise me one bit when I read that he had succumbed to a stroke while raging mad over a $5 plumbing job. Now, he left behind over $1 million in cash, stocks, and bonds, a home in West Point, 3 apartments in Memphis, a Brooklyn brownstone, a summer home in Long Island, a plantation in Mississippi, and a large farm in Tennessee. And the attics in every single one of those buildings was filled to the brim with silver, china, crystals, and statues, paintings, and over 84 pieces of diamond jewelry, each over 5 carats. He didn't leave a will, so when he passed, everything he had was auctioned off, and the proceeds were split up among his cousins, who he didn't even like. Now then we've got Thomas and Nancy's third child, Ophelia. She would be the only one who would outlive her parents. Ophelia, she married a U.S. senator and had 1 child, the Mary Spofford of New York fame, and the founder of the Home for the Friendless. Now, her daughter, also named Laura, was an amazing poet, and she was the founder of the Brooklyn Poetry Circle. She was also a member of the American Professional Artists League, the American Organist Guild, the American Academy of Design, the American Watercolor Society, and the Brooklyn Painters and Sculptors Society. She published several short stories and appeared on many radio programs. The Giles County Historical Society even has a first print edition of her book, Poetry Lane. And then we get to their youngest child, Victoria, who was born in 1837. A sickly young thing, she was whip smart and a huge champion for women's education. Now, not too long before her 20th birthday, the Female Institute of Pulaski had to close due to some financial difficulties. And on her deathbed in 1857, she made her father promise her that he would spend what would have been her part of his inheritance on a school for women in the area. And true to his promise, upon his death, he left a $35,000 endowment for that school. Now, Ophelia, she inherited her father's home, filled it with treasures, and made it the center of Pulaski's social scene. Now, truth be told, Thomas Martin owned so much property, it's hard to say exactly where he first lived or raised his family. But the most well-known home would have been his brick mansion that he built on the corner of First and Hemp Streets, which is now called College Street, in 1840. In our town, Robert Womble writes, although Thomas Martin could not see into the future, he had the foresight and ability to make future events happen. He saw the need for a railroad to convey our cotton to market, and he set about to make it happen. First by boat, utilizing the Elk River. As a matter of fact, Thomas Martin was on that very first ship to deliver the first crop of our cotton to New Orleans. Now, when he heard of the railway, he educated the people of our county as to its need, and in 1856, those people purchased $275,000 worth of stock in the railway, payable in 5 yearly installments, of course. And our boy Thomas Martin, well, he wasn't only the president of the Central Standard Railroad Company here, he was also the largest stockholder. In 1840, he got with Andrew Ballantyne and built the first turnpike in Giles County. While he took no part in politics, Thomas Martin did hold civic servitude in high regard. He was the steward, Sunday school teacher, and the superintendent of the Sunday school at the Methodist Church. Now, he was known to always offer aid to the poverty-stricken youth of Giles County, providing they were of good moral and industrious, of course. He served for a while as the city recorder and head of several banks, and Thomas Martin alone saved Pulaski from ruin during the financial crisis of 1837. He was so well respected that President James K. Polk offered him the position of Secretary of the Treasury, but he turned it down. But he did become mayor of Pulaski in 1854. By 1866, his old store had become Moffett & Cox Dry Goods, and then it burned to the ground. Now, the owner at the time, Mr. May, rebuilt it. When a brick building burns, some of the structure remains intact, and the rebuilding often starts from what's left. So it's entirely possible that Mr. Thomas Martin himself likely touched some of these very same bricks. Now, in addition to his mansion on First and Hemp, he also owned Martinhurst, a 21,000-acre cotton plantation dotted with sharecropper cabins out near Brick Church, which was torn down in 1933. He also owned this home on 2nd Street, where his granddaughter, Mary Spofford, resided with her husband, but It's better known as the tornado-ravaged home where John Kennedy thought it would be a good idea to hold his little clandestine Ku Klux Klan meetings. I feel certain that had Thomas Martin known that, he would have spent eternity rolling over in his grave. Thomas Martin passed away January 13th of 1870. He and Nancy are buried here along with some of the other family members at the mausoleum in Maplewood Cemetery. Now, y'all remember Ophelia, that surviving child that inherited his mansion? She completely remodeled it after his death. She added in a Hebrew prayer rug, marble statues of Grecian goddesses, a reproduction of the stained glass at Monticello, peacock blue carpeting imported in from Berlin, and gilded chairs from centuries earlier in France, all of which also burned to the ground when a fire broke out in 1909. Now, Ophelia here, she didn't just blow through her own money. She also tried her hardest to get her hands on the money that her father had left for the college. The case even went all the way to the Supreme Court, where Victoria Martin, who had been dead long by 30 years at that point, came out victorious. Martin College for Young Ladies was incorporated in 1870, and those first classes were held in the basement of the Methodist Church, the building behind me, where many of us, myself included, attended the Growing Tree Preschool. That first commencement ceremony celebrated only 4 graduates. Now, in 1875, $16,000 was spent on a large colonial home belonging to Mr. Watkins and the 7 acres surrounding it, which was mostly flowers in those days, hence Flower Street. The school moved into that home in 1875, and the following year, a $10,000 addition was built on. Now, at one time, there was a large cistern out in back of the school where they had to go fetch their own water. There were no washrooms or electricity in the early days of Martin College, although they were required to wear uniforms. This picture here is one of the dorm rooms from back in the day. Now, by 1880, there were 60 women at the graduation ceremony that the Pulaski Citizen headlined as "Caged Doves Set Free." By 1885, electricity and communication had made its way to Martin College. And according to the very first phone directory that was published, September 17th of 1885, Martin College could be reached at number 13. Now, even though Martin College was a small school, that didn't mean that they didn't have a well-balanced curriculum. History, math, 4 foreign languages, English, literature, a school of business which taught stenography, bookkeeping, and typing, a school of elocution and gymnastics, a school of art, and a school of music. Enrollment got up to 143 by 1896, but then the epidemics came. Cholera, yellow fever, tuberculosis, and the girls weren't attending school. But that was going to be the least of their worries at Martin College for Young Ladies, because on October 16th, 1904, Martin College burned to the ground. Now, the president of the college then, L.E. Abernathy, vowed to rebuild. But where was he going to get all that money from? Well, he sold off part of the land from behind the school to College Street, and he asked for donations from the townspeople. And in 1905, the cornerstone was laid for what is now Martin Hall. In 1912, Tennessee Hall was built. In 1914, the large presidential home was acquired. And in 1930, the current president at that time, Sinclair Daniel, added in new tennis courts, a new gymnasium, and new furniture for all the dormitories. Come 1936, Martin College signed a charter which made it a co-ed school. And 2 years later, they had their first football team. Now, Martin College signed the paperwork to become a junior college in 1942, and the majority of all the other buildings were added in the 50s and 60s. Come 1966, Martin College was racially integrated along with all the other schools in the area. Now, Martin College signed the paperwork to become a junior college in 1942, and the majority of the buildings were added in the 1950s and 60s. Now, come 1966, Martin was racially integrated along with all the other schools in the area. And in April of 1986, the board at Martin College and the board at the Methodist Church decided to merge and become one, and it became known as Martin Methodist College and adhered to the same morals as the Methodists would, and also started requiring a course to graduate in either the New or the Old Testament. It was still this way when I attended there for a few semesters before I transferred to Austin Peay State University. And in case you're wondering, I was an Old Testament girly. Now, we can't talk about Martin College without mentioning two very benevolent benefactors. The first, Miss Minnie Pearl. The Cancer Foundation, in her name, made a very generous donation in 2010, which was used to refurbish the girls' dormitory. Now, Minnie Pearl never attended Martin College. She went to Belmont. But Belmont University was founded by two women who used to be president at Martin College for young ladies. So had there been no Martin College, there would have never been a Belmont University. Now, the other notable benefactor is the estate of Mrs. Grace G. Grissom. Now, not only did Mrs. Grissom give us Minnie a college struggle meal, but upon her death in 2013, her estate left $1.5 million to Martin Methodist College. And her obituary even requested donations to the college in lieu of flowers. Mrs. Grace Grissom did graduate from Martin College, and she also served on the board of trustees there. Now, not ones to wait until their death, the lady and her husband made several donations while they were still living. And you'll find several of the structures named after Herbert and Grace Grissom. Colonial Hall and the gazebo are just a few. Now, 2020 marked the 150th anniversary of Martin College. And in June of 2021, the University of Tennessee bought the college. They rebranded the name to UT Southern, changed the logo and the mascot to Flame the Firehawk, and painted every curb around campus from red to UT orange. They did keep the current Martin Methodist College president for a while, Mark LaBranch, until he resigned, and now he holds the title of Chancellor Emeritus. And as of July 2025, Dr. Melinda Arnold is the chancellor here at UT Southern. And tuition is much lower than it was at Martin, right around $10,000 for an undergrad program. Speaking of the programs, you are guaranteed to find your fit at UT Southern no matter what you're looking to study. They offer degrees in the arts and humanities, business, math and science, education, social sciences, and nursing. And the professors and staff are all top quality too. The University of Tennessee is just as good at educating people as they are at giving us amazing college teams. Good old Rocky Top, woo! They also kept the movie theater on campus named the Martin, and it's open for all to enjoy, just in case you weren't aware. And here in Tennessee, we're not called the Volunteers for no reason. And up at UT Southern, they really exemplify that. During fall and spring break, they organize trips to serve in disaster-stricken areas or just underprivileged communities. At the holidays, they offer up amazing things for the kids to do, like the Boo Out and visits with Santa. The students all volunteer for Earth Day, and just last year, they cleaned up almost 500 pounds of trash out of Pleasant Run Creek. Thanks for that, y'all. They volunteer their time at our community's free dental day, and they have Spring Service Day, where the students all bag up 8,000 pounds of potatoes and fill the campus green with them. And those potatoes are then in turn donated to local families, charities, and food banks. There's also an amazing art gallery on campus, and the art classes there are open to everyone. You don't have to be looking for a degree. Whether you are homeschooled, in high school, or just an adult looking to get your hands dirty and your mind clean, you can go take a class. And if you're like me and you grew up around here, it's likely that you had your swim classes at the pool on top of the hill or worked out in the gym there. Those services are still offered at the UT Southern Health Club. There is a membership fee if you're not a student, but it is well worth remembering if you're looking to keep in shape, swim on the rainy days, or just walk the indoor track. I'm going to put the numbers for that on the screen here, and you can also find the link for that down in the description. Another link that you're going to find down there, the second link that you see, that goes to the UT campus master plan for the next 5 to 10 years. Now, just last week, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine at the Historical Society, talking about all the wonderful changes that UT Southern has brought to our town. And I said, as long as they don't start tearing down all our beautiful old buildings, we're good. And that's when I learned that they're about to demolish what was Miss Butler's bed and breakfast on Jefferson Street. Now, I just came across this master plan yesterday, and to be honest, I'm still kind of processing. But I urge you to please click that second link down below, take a look at the plans, and let me know what you think about it down in those comments. There's one thing that I can say with certainty. Whether you're ready for it or not, change is coming to Pulaski, Tennessee. I'll see y'all in the next one, and until then, y'all be good.